Okay, everyone, we're going to get going. Sorry for the delay. This, as I said earlier, is probably our tightest transition of the day. And I really appreciate everyone being patient with elevators and all that stuff. I have to be honest, I've planned a lot of events throughout the campaign. This is the one I'm most excited about. It's awesome. And, we need more women in this profession. And we have some, we have some really great security professionals in this city. And, Elisabeth, Zornes, we're very pleased to have you with us here today and your leadership. So Cisco, it's probably no mystery to anyone that it's our number one priority now is security. And Elisabeth is our VP of Cybersecurity Business and Operations. So to have her moderating this panel is phenomenal. Without further ado, I want to welcome Elisabeth.
Thank you guys for sharing your lunch with us, kind of. And we're very pleased to be here. And I met these fantastic ladies today for the first time, and we started talking about women in IT and in cybersecurity in particular. And we had a hard time to break away from our conversation to come up to the panel, but we decided to share some of our thoughts with you as well. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce these four fantastic and accomplished women to you. And why don't we start out with a quick introduction round and start out with April. April, you get a mic. Yeah.
Good afternoon. My name is April Sather. I am Assistant Vice President of Information Technology for First West Credit Union.
Hi everyone, my name's Shanti Gidwan. I'm based here out of Vancouver. I work for Cisco, and I'm the National Senior Director for Healthcare and Business Development.
I don't know, I need a microphone. I'm rather loud normally. So I am Susie Smart, and I'm the Chief Information Security Officer for Finning International. And I take care of the globe, but the head office is here in BC.
I'm Joanne Smith. I'm a Senior Manager for Best Buy Canada. I manage information security architecture, PCI compliance, and forensics.
Thank you very much, ladies. And as you can see, we have a good mix of our panel, both from a CISO perspective, from an IT perspective, from an industry vertical perspective, and then a deep security expertise. I want to, just to get us started, want to share some numbers with you, which I think shouldn't surprise you, but every time I look at them, I'm surprised myself still. Women in IT, the ratio of women IT is about 25% compared to the overall population, and the number has been declining actually over the last couple of years, which I find pretty horrifying. There is about a 50% quit rate of women that started out in IT to move on to other careers. So I'm very pleased to see, looking at the audience, that we have our good share of women in this event. And I just want to congratulate you to be in this space, because I personally find it really fascinating and very gratifying to be there. When I first joined my first job in the IT industry, I increased the rate of women in our department by 100%. And it took me about 2 weeks to find the other woman. So things have changed, and I think a lot is in our hands as well to make changes to that. So with that, let me go into my first question to the ladies, and whoever feels most passionate will get to grab it first, and then we go around. What got you to take up a career in IT?
I can do it. I think it's a story that might be relevant for the younger in the room. I play an awful lot of video games. I was supposed to be a pharmacist. I came to IT by accident, and I played lots of games, and I had to pay a subscription fee for Ultima Online and World of Warcraft, so that's dating me for those of you that are my vintage. And I was concerned about my credit card. I had $500 on it as a student, and I thought, what happened if that's my safety net and it's gone because of my online gaming addiction? Didn't like pharmacy, couldn't do the co-op. It's too much human contact for what I like, and I went into IT, found my passion, figured, what am I doing for fun? And I played a lot of games, so I thought, I'm going to go in computer science and engineering, and I fell in love. I should have started there. It would have saved me time finding myself by doing pharmacy. It's a great career.
Excellent. Anybody else wants to chime in?
Sure, I can. I'm actually a registered nurse, so it's kind of strange. Quite often when I meet with customers, organizations, and I say I work for Cisco, they say, "Oh, Cisco, the food company." It makes more sense to them that a nurse would go work for a food company than an IT company. So similar to Susie, I came upon this sheerly by chance, and through various different experiences, had the opportunity to have a conversation with someone who wanted to talk about healthcare and the intersection with technology. And of course, we're seeing all this really coming to the forefront and what that actually means in terms of incorporating technology into our healthcare system and how powerful it can make it. So I'm happy to be doing that, but never in a million years would I have thought I would have gone into IT. As a nurse at the bedside, when IT would come and implement new systems, we would either run away from them as fast as we could, or we would try to beat them over the head with an IV bag or something. So it's an interesting place I find myself in today.
Great. So now, as you're in IT and as you're working in that segment, which is very fascinating, I'm just be curious, what is it you like about your job? What is it you like about your work?
I have to say, there is never a dull moment. One thing that attracted me to IT initially and continues to keep me so motivated is the fact that there are new challenges and that IT is becoming the business. We are no longer simply a department supporting the business. We are becoming the central area. And I'll just say for credit unions, every transaction has a technology component, and IT is the experience, the user experience, the member experience, and what draws people to institutions very often now is how well we provide that, and are we providing it in a way where trust and privacy and security are paramount. So I love the continuous learning, and that's what keeps me going every day.
Yeah, very well said, April, in regards to that. I think, it's really the differentiator that IT is today for businesses, and it has, become from an underlying capability, moved from the boiler room to the boardroom, and helping companies to differentiate in new and different ways. That's fantastic. So what excites you?
So for me, my job is dynamic. It's never the same every day. I have 3 distinct areas that I focus on, which is architecture, which is before we built something, so putting the security in, compliance, maintaining the security and making sure that it stays static and consistent over time, and then forensics, which is oh my God, something happened to the security and it didn't work. So what do we do? Like, what happened? How do we fix it? And how do we make sure that it doesn't happen again? So every day is a subset of those 3 things, looking at a different aspect of the same job, really. It's constantly changing. It's never the same each day.
Great. Anybody else wants to chime in?
We have a lot of questions. If it's not fighting bad guys,
Do you want to take the mic? Yeah, thank you.
I don't remember who made the comments, but there's an active adversary to our world. It's not just operating. There are people that are trying to get us. That's not by 25 cents. I need to pay royalty to someone here. But that's the fun part. There's always things to chase, things to fix.
Mm-hmm. That's a great way of saying that, just to quote myself there. A great way of saying that. And that's what IT security really differentiates, and where we see a lot of momentum in that industry overall. I looked at some of the numbers also specifically for IT security because I was curious on, what's the ratio of women in IT security. Any guesses in the audience? 15%. I hear 15%. Anybody else? 5. So it's in the middle. It's 11%. So it's a very, very low number. And if you look at that with the backdrop of knowing that about in the US alone are 30,000 jobs open in the field of IT security, with the expectation of a similar increase this year. So if only we could tap into the talent pool and generate more talent to come on board, that could close some of that talent gap. So I'm curious now, in terms of the talent, the development, how did you prepare yourself for some of that? We talked a little bit about certifications and talked a little bit about, you know, a specific education for security as you evolve from IT to security. I think, April, there are a couple of things you wanted to share with us around that.
Yes, well, my undergraduate I completed many years ago in technology, and it's so very important to stay current. So when I realized that my ultimate goal is to one day be CIO, I looked at what certifications could take me there, and the one that jumped right out was the CGITE, which is the certification in the governance of enterprise IT. And it's one of the niche ISACA certifications, and I've actually found that as soon as I obtained that, my leadership journey rapidly accelerated because, again, the ISACA certifications are generally a combination of skill and experience. So not only does this resonate locally in Vancouver, but it's a global designation. So one thing I will also share is I've lived in 17 cities in 4 countries and often have to move and kind of reestablish professional networks, obtain work where in places where my last employer or educational institution wouldn't even be recognized. But what is recognized are certifications like the PMP, the Project Management Professional, anything from ISACA. And so when you are looking at certifications, look at their reach and look at the level of respect they have. They actually have the continuing education requirement as well, which means you're always current. And it's another thing that I think is really important when looking at where to invest your time and money.
I don't know, maybe for me, not specifically from a security perspective or even an IT perspective, but you know, having a registered nurse, a practicing or a non-practicing license for me opened up a lot of different doors. You know, you were speaking, Susie, about the pharmacy path that you went on, and maybe you could have, you know, leapfrogged a little bit. I considered my first degree a character building degree. It was at the University of Toronto. It was a human biology and zoology with a minor in French. So not a whole heck of a lot I could do with that. And then went in to do my my RN, my Bachelor of Science in Nursing, and then went on to do 2 double master's degrees. And so I think, you know, for me, when I look at the education, I think certainly that is helpful. But it really is about certifications. It's also really about the work experience, and I think, you know, really keeping that open mind. So for me, just the journey from working at the bedside as an actual RN, moving up into operations and administration, and then moving into consulting roles where I had the opportunity to live abroad as well. Lived in Barcelona for a couple of years and consulted for the World Health Organization, really not saying no to any of these opportunities and understanding where your path may or may not lead you in the sense of being free and open and having that opportunity. So I agree that certifications are very valuable, and then also that experience and just being able to jump and not necessarily knowing where you'll land.
Just going to flip the coin a little bit on the certification thing and flip it to recruitment. So typically, if I have job positions open at Best Buy and at Best Buy Global, when we're looking for people, there's not a lot of security specific certifications. There's the CISSP. There's a few other ones that are okay. I don't think they're generally reflective of the skill set that an individual brings to the table. I typically look for other certifications, like April was saying, that are complementary and that demonstrate that they have a broader skill set that they're bringing to the table. Project management, to understand how project flows, consulting certifications, other areas that they bring to the table that complement what they do from a security perspective on a day-to-day basis really makes a well-rounded employee, lets them be more kind of self-starting and more independent and less driven by management. Mm-hmm. They tend to benefit the team overall a lot more.
Mm-hmm. That's a great point and a great segue. Actually, where I would like to get some input from the audience as well is the question of, let's look at the 11%, females in IT security. What are some of the strategies you might have in place to increase the rate? I see a hand.
Just a quick question. Is the problem there aren't enough women going into IT security? Is it the problem there's not enough women going into IT? If you get enough women going into IT, then a certain percentage go into IT security anyway. Mm-hmm. So are you solving a subset or are you solving a bigger problem? Mm-hmm. I'm not sure what you guys
So question from the audience was, is the challenge the underlying problem for not enough women going into IT, and with that not enough of a feeder pool going into IT security, or specifically for IT security? I'll give that back to my all-knowledgeable panel.
It's a subset, but it can also be different. There are great business people coming into the field of information security. They might be auditor, they might be accountant, they have no background in IT, but they think in terms of risk. And what are we trying to do is mitigate the risk to the organization. So if they can do puzzles, they want to find root cause of problem, and they want to solve it, don't care for their background. They might be coming from a different field, they might be an RN, but if they have this passion, their curiosity, and they want to fix problem at the root cause, they have a great career in information security. You don't need the STEM degree. Sure, I'd like to see more fellow engineers and fellow STEM graduates. We need to increase it so that there's more pipeline. But it don't need to come from there.
If I could refine the question, is there something unattractive about being in IT generally for women, as opposed to something unattractive about being in IT security?
So I'll quote the question. The question was, is there something unattractive about being in IT in general, and something even more unattractive about being in IT security? I see a lot of passion in the panel.
Because I'm like the devil advocate for this, I'm okay to get my car keyed. If we just take a mirror and look around the room and we look at what we perceive information security to be, it's not really feminine, is it? It doesn't look cool. I never thought I would end up in there. So sure, I had passion that aligned with it, but if you're the only female in your group, and the guys, you're the only female contact they've had, and you follow them to the washroom in your degree, do you want to work in a field where they're singled out every day, when they feel objectified? It's a matter of the men on how they are treating the women, and it's also a matter of how cool it is to be in IT. You don't want a career that doesn't sound cool. Every little boy want to be an astronaut. Nobody want to be an IT engineer. How do we change that perception? It's come from all of us. It's for the women to accept the challenge, rise to it, and say, well, doesn't matter if you don't want me here. It's a cool career, and I'm going to prove you wrong. And it's for the guys and how they're approaching the diversity. It's not just the women. It could be a diversity of skin, could be a different age, could be different background, new immigrant. Be more inclusive, and we'll see change coming up. I do not drive. I do the transit today.
No, it's true. I think Susie pictured it perfectly, and it's again one of those things where typically, and I bring my IV bag out, I will hit them. It's one of those things where it's really the perception, I think, of IT, and particularly maybe for women as a gender, does need to change, and what we can empower with that. And again, maybe there's a little bit of pigeonholing that goes on where people say, okay, I'm going to go into IT. What does that actually mean? And for people, it's a very thin tranche, like a very thin slice of what people think they may get out of that industry. But I think, myself as well as my other panelists are really a good example of all the different diverse areas that you can work in IT and in IT security that really make it exciting and challenging and fresh and innovative. And I think that that's really what attracts not just women, but all of us, right? We want to work in a place that challenges us and that is innovative, and that where we like to see those rewards and reap those benefits. So, shifting IT into more of that type of a mindset, I think, is going to be really important for all of us as leaders, as we message what we do and how we move forward with that.
Question?
Yeah. I think everybody's aware that over the last 20 years there have been lots and lots of projects around developing opportunities for women in IT.
Mm-hmm.
So you know this. A number of organizations have tried it, studied it. I was personally involved in one. And our perception was that women don't want to go with IT for a lot of reasons. From a career perspective, they want to get into what I would call the touchy-feely arts. You'll attest to that. They usually end up in IT because suddenly they think, oh, let's try something a little different. This looks more attractive.
Charles.
I don't speak as loud as you, Jason. Sorry. I can be loud now. whoa, now we're really shouting. So I think the issue is how do you attract women to a career in IT at a very early stage? We even looked at, and in fact did a number of projects at a kindergarten level, but guess what they wanted to play with? Not computers. The girls wanted to play with dolls, and it was an ongoing issue. So how do you change that? I mean, it's my question, and I know it's tough.
Now I'm being tempted because I'm the panel moderator. I'm not supposed to give any answers, so ladies.
There's no rule about that.
Is that?
So I have 4 children, and I have 3 daughters that are between 19 and 22. So in the last 4 or 5 years, we've helped our kids select what they were going to take in post-secondary school or post-secondary education. And unilaterally, none of my children wanted to go into IT because both their parents were in IT, and they were like, yeah, we're not doing that. That's super boring. So when we looked at school programs and the different fields in universities and colleges, they don't really make and sell IT or as anything other than learning how to program. They make it really unattractive for girls. Like, women don't want to sit in her desk and program. It just doesn't seem engaging because it's not touchy-feely enough, like you said. I think the opportunity to get more women into IT starts less at the university, although I think there needs to be changes there in marketing, like the technology and the skills to women through school. But it needs to start in the organization where we onboard new employees, new recruits right out of university, and we drive them into a career path, or we help them form a career path into IT or into security in general. I think, you know, security itself is a mindset. I think there's a gene that comes with somebody in security. You either have it or you don't. I think if you have it, you're going to move into that field because that's what you're good at. And typically people like to do what they're good at, and they'll blossom in that field. But I see, for me, it starts more at business, and when you're hiring new recruits right out of school, looking beyond just what they took in school and trying to figure out what they're good at, even if they start in an organization. It's good for them to experience working in different departments right out of the gate, because those are the employees that you'll find and that you'll retain easily.
I want to build on this if I can. Not every woman is touchy-feely, for the record. How many of you are father? Quite a lot. How do you... I'm French, so I can use whatever word I want. I won't swear, I promise. How many of you pigeonhole your daughter or children into typical gender roles? It started in my home to be in computer science, to be an engineer, to drive for whatever I wanted to do. My dad told me, you could be prime minister if you want. You could do whatever you want. If my dad had said, no, your room needs to be pink, you need to have braids, you need to wear a dress, you can't go play outside with truck because you like it, it's not ladylike, I might have embraced those gender issues. I might have embraced the pigeonholing of being the typical, not the typical, every role has a play. But I might have not gone into those fields. I might not have wanted to explore those areas that are not necessarily female-friendly. So the challenge is for all of the dads, if you want to fix it in elementary schools, in kindergarten, treat your daughter as can do anything, can be an astronaut, can rule the world. Treat your sons in the same way. If they want to go into nursing, if they want to be a ballet dancer. We have to go away from this stereotype at the kids level, and then I think it's going to change.
Just quickly to add to the many great comments, I think there's 2 challenges. One is it's very hard to see what we do and to tell that story and to make it understandable externally. You almost have to experience to get it. And another issue, when we look at the 50% quit rate, which is quite staggering, is I believe that a lot of the entry-level roles in some of those first 5 years is when people, they can't see past the work they're doing, perhaps as QA testers or writing requirements, and they're sitting in the cubicle, and they're not getting out there interacting with the business, they're not communicating and demonstrating their ability to partner with the business to develop solutions, because, oh, you get to do that later, but they might not get there. So I think having a more engaging first 5 years and making sure that they can see how they're contributing to the end result would be another option.
That's a great topic, April, but before I go further, there was a question. Go ahead. Let me give you the mic.
So speaking about the retention, do any of the companies you work for have any sort of specific programs designed around to keep women happy and retain them in those roles?
Now I'm going to grab the mic. Yes.
You can actually hold it. I'll be using this. At Cisco, we have a very specific focus on women in IT in general, as well as female leadership roles. When you look at our board, there were significant changes over the last couple of years, and about half of our C-level positions are women. That makes a significant difference, because then the network as well grows in a way that women support and actively mentor women. So I'm being actively mentored by our CMO and our CFO, both being women that help me in my personal career and in my next steps forward, which I hope there will be many. So I think it has to do with the active willingness and determination to see more women and to actively help and mentor that from the very first day they set foot into the organization, and even prior to that in the interview process, where you want to have a balanced panel, where you want to look at the qualifications in a balanced way, and make the right decisions to ideally infuse your team with the right talent and with the right mix.
I'll just add to that as well from like a Cisco Canada perspective. Certainly I think at the manager level is really one of the great places to start. My manager was one that really was looking to infuse his organization with more women actively. And so that was probably one of the reasons why I came to join his organization, not just from a qualification standpoint, but really something different, something fresh, something new and innovative to offer. But on an organizational scale, we do have a group called Connected Women in Cisco Canada. We do a lot of women empowerment types of activities and initiatives, and really from an internal perspective as well as external. So internally, we have our new Cisco Canada president. She's been in place for about 1.5 years, and so she's a woman. And we've seen a lot of amazing changes happen for women within Cisco Canada. A lot of women that really, we would say should be in those higher up positions and are now actually getting promoted and empowered to take those positions. And then we do workshops. So for example, she's a Brit. So she came in and she said, I need to understand more about the mat leave process, or the young women in our office, a recruitment and retention strategy. Women that are thinking about having a baby but working in a sea of men, as typically we see in our Toronto office. How is that woman going to feel? How can we make her more comfortable? I just came back from maternity leave, so that's a stretch assignment that I've taken on to say I'm going to create a presentation and a pitch and a proposal for Cisco Canada to consider in terms of making it more of a friendly place when we're looking at young women, and I'm not saying I'm young by any stretch, but some of our younger women who are looking to start and plan their families and wanting them to come back. I think that's a really big deal too, because maybe part of that 50% quit rate is around women that have children and don't come back because they feel like it wouldn't be the right fit or the right mix. Maybe there isn't a part-time option for them. So all those different things come into play, and I think when you have more women in the gender mix, more of these things are actually called to attention, which I think is really important, so we can talk about it.
I saw another question over there. Can we pass on?
Thank you. So I'm kind of on the other side of the spectrum. I'm somebody who is very interested in learning more about a career in security, but I have a background in business, basically. So what would be some of the strategies that would get me to the basically entry-level positions or to the career in this field? Do I need some sort of certifications, or where can I start, basically? Thank you.
One of the most natural entry points is as a business analyst, particularly if you have experience. There are a shortage of business analysts. You look out there at the open postings for BAs, and it's incredible, almost matching the number of project management companies. That's the second idea, because you can take what you have, and you do not need to be deeply technical by any stretch to be a very successful project manager or business analyst. And once you're in IT and you have exposure to all the different areas and opportunities from architecture to information security, you might, it's much easier to make that step. But getting in the door, I would suggest the PMBA route.
So same at Best Buy, my architecture team that works on projects and design works with business analysts and the IT teams and the business every day in defining requirements and, you know, the direction that the project is going to go. So for sure, a BA is a great entry-level role, and the type of skills that you have would totally fit into that. You don't need to be technical. You learn pretty quickly because you're working with the technical people day to day. So.
Any other questions out there? We have a good dialogue going, so it's a good time to raise your hand.
This is probably more of a comment than a question, but I'd be interested in your view on this. One of the things that we've done at TELUS is that we've had leadership development programs in place for about 10 years, I think, where we've brought people in from post-secondary institutions, and kind of irregardless of what their field of study is, we put them through a rotation of either 2 years or 3 years where they spend 6 months in many different areas of the business. So they work in business, they work in consumer, but you know, they may work in HR, but part of the time they do spend in our IT organization. And what we've seen is that the number of women that choose to then stay in the IT organization goes up because they're getting kind of a forced exposure to an area that they might not have had as top of mind, but they actually they discover that they love it. And they learn a lot, and it's really changed the view, I think.
Thank you for sharing.
I think it's because you can't see what we do. So April mentioned that earlier. You once you have the experience and the exposure to it, that's why the BA role is a great entry-level position, because you get a lot of exposure to the different units of business. That's a great program. I wish we had that at Best Buy. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
I think that's the key. Yeah, absolutely. From an organizational perspective, having those types of programs in place are really what's going to create the exposure for people that don't know what they don't know. And I think that's really how you are going to get the recruitment and the retention, and having the right people, like what Susie was saying earlier, you know, and Joanne was saying this at least earlier as well too. Doing what you love. When you wake up in the morning and you love what you do and you jump out of bed and you're ready to go, that's really what our definition of best fit would be, and that's what we're striving to achieve. But when we take it at a really high organizational level like that, we have a much greater chance of success.
Great. Any other thoughts, contributions here?
I would definitely tend to agree. He mentioned earlier about being at a young age and girls playing with dolls. I've got a sister who's got a 4-year-old daughter who now knows how to program her iPhone. And it's just like, this is going to be the next generation that's hopefully going to start moving into IT. And something I'd like to see more of personally as well is, even before post-secondary, seeing a lot of technology classes being offered in school. That would definitely be a good thing, you know.
Anybody else wants to chime in with some of your thoughts as well as with some of your strategies?
It's been wonderful hearing all these viewpoints and everything. I have a lot of commonality. 4 kids, U of T, zoology degree, worked with Finning, know Lonnie Skinner very well. So it's wonderful, and the connectivity in the room is obvious. I'd say there's sort of 3 points, and I'll start from sort of the most sort of strategic at a senior leadership level, and then down to the most personal for me. At a senior level, I think we're starting to see it here, but what you're talking about is a level of mentorship that has to happen. I think all these success programs, the things that TELUS has done, Van City, others, around diversity and inclusion in the workplace, all is rooted in that. And I would urge everybody in here to start thinking about what does that mean for their organizations and themselves, especially if you're at a senior role, what can you do to give back? At that education level, it really has to change. Right now, if you talk to post-secondary, there's really two streams of thought. There is the computer science level at the universities, and there's the technical training at the institutes of technology. And, you know, I sit on the solder school advisory program for their MIS programs, and the conversation is all about how do you marry the two? How do you build business knowledge into the technical people and technical knowledge into the business people? And so we have to do a better job in lobbying those that are building our curriculum for today. Now to the most personal. Father of 4 children, my number 2, who's, got to get this right, 15, is a daughter. So she's the only girl in our family. And, you know, yeah, she's got sort of some of the traditional feminine things, but some of the things that really spark her, and she frankly kicks her brother's butts, is that she's online all the time. And the other day she goes, Dad, I need your PayPal account. I go, what for? And she goes, well, you know, I got this account up and I can sell it, I can monetize it. And I go, really? What are you up to? And she goes, well, you know, I got these followers. And I go, so, you know, I'm an accountant. So I said, well, how many followers do you have? She goes, well, 400,000. And she was selling some Google account for some game, I couldn't understand it, right? So, you know, to your point, so, I mean, that's really, you know, that kind of building mentorship starts at home. So thank you for that.
Thank you much. Any other contributions from the audience? Anything you want to share with the team around your strategies on how you foster inclusion and career growth of women?
So there used to be at one time in Vancouver a number of women in technology type organizations. One was called Wired Women. There were a bunch of them. Are you aware of whether they still exist? Or, and you know, Wired Women was an excellent organization for a long time, but they seem to have disappeared, which, you know, is kind of disturbing and maybe tells you a little bit of, you know, people aren't getting involved. Are you guys aware of that? Are you involved in any of these types of organizations? Would you like to start one? But, yeah.
Well, I'm not from BC, but I know there are some, I commute back and forth between Calgary and BC, if that makes any difference. It's hard to keep those groups alive. It's the time commitment and the efforts if you want to make it work. I've heard of those groups, but they're still not meetings. They have been diluted with other networking events. They've been included or taken as part of other companies or consortium. Though I do participate in a mentorship program for young women in business. That might be in IT, might be in business, might be in finance. It's a group of young graduates in first 1 to 5 career years. And I think it's our job to send the elevator down. I was privileged to have good mentorship, good sponsorship coming through my career that helped me get where I am today. It's only fair that I return the favor to the 1 to 5 years to the new graduate, and that I help them accelerate their learning and their skills so that it can be faster, better, and stronger at their work. So though they might not be networking for people my age, but I can give back to the communities or newcomer and help them rise up to the challenge.
Does Isaka have any groups?
Maybe I can make a comment on
Yeah,
that.
just you probably.
So I'll just say this. Leading up to this event, I had lunch with Suzie, and we talked about mentorship and the importance of mentorship. And you know, I work for Cisco, so I'd really love to sell her a bunch of Cisco stuff, but I get more excited, quite frankly, talking to her about this. And you know, she has a lot of enthusiasm for it, so I don't want to put her on the spot. But one of the things that we're going to be doing as a byproduct, or at the end of this, is we're going to be sending out again that questionnaire. And one of the questions is going to be, are you interested in mentorship? And would you like to be a mentor? And would you like to be a mentee? And so please do fill out those responses and get back to us. We do, like this year, for the first year, ISACA Vancouver created a role, a director of mentorship programs. And we are going to put something together, but we are volunteers doing this off the sides of our desks. So be patient with us. It takes time. So, you know, to your point, it's, you know, there's a commitment and we need to put structure and rigor around it, but that is definitely on the to-do list. So please, you know, if this is something that you're interested in, do express your enthusiasm for it, because that'll light a fire under our you-know-what. So, but thanks.
So I had a mentor very early on in my career. I actually had many mentors over my career, and I currently have a mentor at Best Buy that is mentoring me through my career. I mentor two young people, one not in security and one that's in IT and security. So I think it's like Susie said, I'm trying to give back to everything that I've received over the years, and I actually personally find it quite rewarding when I see them be successful, but it's, you know, it's very informal. I'm kind of flying by the seat of my pants, so to speak. So if there was a more formalized program that could provide guidance to those that want to be a mentor, I think that'd be something great to participate in. I would definitely look for some of that as well.
I think there's a related concept, and that's around sponsorship. So the mentorship, there's the formal programs, but then sponsorship, you're actually bringing people into your team and promoting them and getting them great assignments and exposure and making sure that they have the challenges to grow. So I think there's a combination of the formal mentorship programs, which are very, very important, but also that actual sponsorship when you are making the difference in their careers.
That is a great point, and if I might chime in, from our perspective, some of the things we are doing is we are actually tracking the numbers. So we are holding our leadership teams accountable for making progress on creating a much more balanced mix in their team, as well as with female leadership in key roles. And, you know, our leaders are being measured on that, and we are looking on that on a quarterly basis. If we are making progress, what are some of the activities, as well as sharing some of the best practices between teams. So for us, it's a business metric. We are taking it serious, and we are looking at it as part of what we need to do as executives in our roles.
If I could make just one super quick comment, just maybe for the young folks in the room. There's a great book called Forget the Mentor, Find a Sponsor. I can't remember the author's name, Sylvia something. It's a great book to get it, an ebook or a physical book, and it really talks about how, as a young person starting out in your career, you can actually pinpoint people in your organization or outside, just people that maybe you've met somewhere else, and actually ask them for either sponsorship or mentorship. So what do those two things mean? And it differentiates between the two of them so you can understand that value, and that's actually something that I think should be on every young, early in career person's list to read.
Mm-hmm. Let's do it.
Back to where we started.
Team exercise, and see if you guys can manage to pass the mic across 4 rows.
Looping back to where we started, is IT security an attractive career for women? I've done it for 30 years, and nobody ever came up and said, security was awesome today, keep it up. On the other hand, the people who deliver databases and call centers and ERP systems and applications, they get a lot of reward and praise. So if you do want to end up as a CIO, do you get there by being a security geek, or do you get there by delivering ERP applications and call centers and databases? In other words, is this a good career? Like, a lot of people go into IT security because they love IT security. But if you want to become a CIO, is it the best route? Are you better off going in the ERP route or the coding route?
Take that one. I'll take liberty in that, and then I'll pass it on to the panel. I don't think it's an either or, to be quite frank. I think you need to, on your path to a CIO, you need to know all the various disciplines. I think security, again, was like deep embedded in the infrastructure in the past, and now it's really a boardroom conversation. So I would turn it on its head, and I would say you cannot become a CIO without understanding security.
I'm as much of a business person as I am a technologist. If anything, I am far removed from technology at the company. I do more marketing with my role than I do technology speak. You can't lead with technology. You have to lead with people, ideas, innovation. You can come from the field of information security and thrive into the business. How are you solving problem for your company? if you can understand your business challenge, if you rise above thinking, I just work in IT, and you understand what makes your business makes money, what drives the stock going up and down, what drives your customer buying or not buying from you, and you understand your business strategy, and you speak in those terms, you're going to elevate yourself as a leader or as a business leader. A CIO can come from technology, can come from accounting. If you think 10, 15 years ago, most of the CIO that I've worked with were CAs. They were not coming from a technology background. You don't necessarily need it to rise to that level or be an ERP. As Elisabeth said, it's good to know everything. It's good to have done a stint in help desk so that you understand what's the pain point of your end user. But if you think in business terms, if you understand your organization strategy, align yourself in what you're doing to it to help and support it, you can get to the CIO job from wherever background you have. You can get to the CEO's background as a security professional. I'm truly confident we can make it if we change the dialogue from a technology lead to a strategy and leadership discussion. We can get wherever we want.
Yeah, so we're going to do one last thing. We're going to do a quick lightning round, ladies. I'm going to surprise you with this, just to see, to keep you on your high-heeled toes. I'm going to ask you, what is the one thing you want the audience to remember and to take away from this session? And April, you'll be first.
Take action, start now. And by being here today, you are actually taking action. When you receive the survey, which asks if you're interested in the CSX training opportunity, if this is even remotely interesting to you, take advantage and just do it. You won't know unless you try, and don't be afraid to take that risk.
Yeah, so further to April's point, be open to opportunities. You never know when you're going to find your niche. But the other piece probably, that I really need to say with my nurse hat on is security affects every single person. Obviously, everyone in the room, we're clear that you all have an interest, but don't make assumptions that other people aren't interested in security, because everybody should be. When we look at our financial data, when we look at our personal health information and how we want to protect that, security is absolutely top of mind. So whether or not people try to dismiss and say security, or put a big red ribbon over a slide that they've done in detail, and then of course it has to be secured. Don't be discouraged. Security is absolutely top of mind for everybody, and we need to make sure that we have more of those conversations around that, regardless of the industry, regardless of the vertical.
What I'd like everybody to remember or take from this session is believe in yourself. Especially if you're a young woman or a diversity coming into a market where you believe you don't fit, you fit in. You can create your space, you can claim your space, you can use stronger words, and you deserve to be there. You shouldn't make excuse. As a young woman entering the field, when you apply for a job, if you don't meet 100% of the requirements, go for it. If you meet 100% of the requirements, you're overqualified for the job. Go after what you want and stop doubting yourself. Make a decision, take it. You can always change career if it doesn't turn out to be what you'd like it to be.
So I believe security isn't a separate stream or a separate path within an organization. It's a supporting core service that makes business successful, it makes IT successful, and it makes our gross profit and our gross margins much larger. We allow the business and technology to deploy things that will wow our customers and make them want to buy stuff from us. So the business can't do it without us. We're a core service.
Great. So let me thank the panel for the great contribution. And let me thank you guys for your active participation. I hope you had as much fun as I did over the last 45 minutes. Thank you so much.